We're chatting about SABMiller now, which manufactures, distributes and sells beverages, including 200 beer brands.
Yep. They don't, I would say, have a global brand of the scale of Budweiser or Corona or Beck's. Because, of course, Castle Lager we think is absolutely enormous because it is here in Africa. But on a global stage, I guess you could put Peroni, which is one of their brands, Miller's, which is the US, SABMiller, as well as Grolsch, which they bought in the European market.
We're looking here at a market cap of, what are we looking at? Just over 1 trillion rand,
Correct.
PE ratio of 24.9, and a dividend yield of 2.34%. Again, Mia, having chatted to you numerous times about SABMiller, it is one of those heavyweights that you do like.
Yes, I like it. I think, there's always a lot of debates around whether it's expensive when you listen to a lot of fund managers and what you pay for and sort of the growth that's going to come out of the company. These companies are big and they don't obviously offer you the sort of growth that you're going to get from a smaller company, but they are exposed to especially big emerging market growth. And when you look at SAB and where their revenue comes from, they already earn more than 20% of their revenue from China. So that is quite a significant part. Then South Africa is still sort of around 19%. So, and then there's sort of lots of other different big countries rather, like Colombia, etc., where they earn a lot of their earnings from. SAB and Africa rather is another area where they're moving into aggressively. They've got a lot of competition there from Anheuser-Busch, and so sort of in the top area of the continent. But there's a lot of growth opportunity for this company there.
Paul, do we have this one in the portfolio? Remind me.
Yep, we do. So we added it in, and part of the thesis was just solid growth and getting through a bit of a quiet patch from a quarterly earnings point of view. And partly, interestingly, it was always because we thought, Chris Gilmore and I and Mia in a previous show, that SABMiller is a potential buyout target by AB InBev.
But you traditionally don't like to buy companies because they are a target.
Yeah, because, for every rumor, you get one deal out of 10. And, it's hard to do big deals like this. But money is cheap in the world, we know. And so if somebody wanted to put the two together, they could do so because there isn't a great deal of overlap between these two companies. A little bit here and here in Europe.
Mia?
I agree. So Anheuser is about double the size of SAB, and it offers completely different exposures to the world, really. If you put the two together, you probably have something that offers you exposure to every single part of the world. But yeah, I still want to see that happening. It's a massive deal. So it's more on buying this company for what it offers you now, and it's offering you exposure to people who drink. People drink when it goes well, when it goes bad. So sort of exposure that always grows.
Let's have a look quickly at the share price performance before we continue with our discussion.
I think we've got a modest gain on our position. Not too much action in 2015 there, but I think Mia's point, let's go to the fundamentals. China is definitely a huge plus because China's got such an enormous population. Their beer consumption is relatively low. Remember, Snow, which is their brand, there is the #1 selling brand in China, but it's still relatively modestly consumed in China.
And Mia mentions the Africa growth component,
exactly.
which is also significant to this broader
Africa.
story.
And they do something interesting there. They use like kava, which is a root that they then turn into a beer. So they use sort of local input to then make beer that's appealing to the people and what they've been drinking there.
In addition to obviously then taking the clear lager beer at the more high end, and they've been building breweries and taking over state-owned breweries around Africa. So SABMiller, big player, and that would be a great addition because if you look at the long-term demographic charts, Africa's population growth rates are higher. So that's
if we're talking about fundamentals management as well, Mia, can you give us an update on that front?
Yeah, so there's been sort of a wobble and people have been worried about what's going on in the management, but I think there's a lot of depth and structure when you look at the company and people working there. So I mean, just in reference to some people I've known who's been working there for years, and sort of they're so loyal to the company and they love working there. So and that's sort of the majority of people that work at SAB. So I think I don't think it's a massive issue for me at this time.
For you, Paul, is there an issue on management or not?
Well, look, Graham Mackay died, which is very regrettable. He was a very strong figure in the company. Alan Clark has taken over. Remember, he had a slightly interesting background because he wasn't from the sort of engineering production side. He was more an HR sales specialist. But he seems to be doing well, and he was hand-picked by Graham Mackay. They had a financial director change recently. The new guy's name is Dominic De Lorenzo, who I don't know at all. I don't think he's a South African.
Me neither.
I think he's a Brit.
Oh, fresh blood, sometimes a good thing.
True.
Hot or not?
Yes,
Do anything else, Paul? You wanted to add another fact?
Yeah, I just want to add one more thing. Remember, SABMiller's got a 27% shareholder in a company called Altria, which is the old Philip Morris holding company, and it's because they bought Miller from Altria in exchange for shares. So that means that SABMiller is in play to a larger extent than it might also be the case for a normal diversified conglomerate. There's also a 13% stake which belongs to the Santo Domingo family, who sold Bavaria to them. It's a Colombian company. So whenever you've got a big company like this with a chunky minority shareholder that's potentially open to the idea of a deal, I think you do need to give it a little bit of credit for the idea that a transaction could happen more than ordinarily.
I agree.
Hot or
yeah,
not?
I'm hot on it.
Hot. Hot or not?
Yeah, I do think it's a good one, and that's why we hold them. So hot on that one.